Welcome to I Got a Guy podcast, a podcast carefully designed to introduce a wide range of very talented and highly skilled professionals ready to share their knowledge and advice with you. Please welcome the host of I Got a Guy podcast, Michael Drelicharz. Hello and welcome to I Got a Guy podcast. I'm your host, Michael Drelicharz. Thanks again for being with us this week. We appreciate your loyalty and all the subscribers. That helps us validate what we're doing every week. We're bringing some great guests, great business ideas, and really looking to support small businesses. As I've mentioned so many times on previous episodes, I believe that small business really is the foundation of our economy and of our country. Recently heard a statistic that said 62% of businesses in the country are small businesses. So that's a vital component. And we here at I Got a Guy podcast, and me personally, I want to do what I can to promote small businesses. I own a small business myself, obviously, but Precise Fleet Tracking Solutions. And as you know, over the years, we've had some really amazing guests on our show. Many of them are small business owners or independent contractors working for larger companies, but running their own business. And it's really important to help these businesses grow because that feeds the economy, helps us hire more people, helps us contribute to the overall economy. And it's just a beautiful thing. It's really how the whole system works well. Also, as you know, this show was born out of reading a book called The Go-Giver. As a small business owner, I network a lot. I'm networking regularly with small businesses and a few different groups. And that's really how small businesses get started, or I shouldn't say get started, but how they really grow and start their growth trajectory by networking together. Your networking partners, your referral partners, are essentially a remote or a sales force for you. They're out carrying your message forward to their constituents and sharing the stories. So networking is a really important part to growing any small business. But so many people have this incorrect perception that when they go to a networking event, whether it be a ribbon cutting event, an after hours event, a networking meeting, that they're going to walk in and automatically people are going to give them business. The reality is you grow your business through giving referrals. You build relationships, you build trust with each other. And if everybody gives referrals, and then in return, everybody gets referrals as well. But you don't walk into a networking meeting looking to say, who's going to give me referrals? You walk into a networking meeting to say, how can I give some referrals? Who can I meet here that can help me out and help my sphere of influence out? How can I share referrals and help other businesses grow? So that was really evident, and that's a really important component with that book called The Go-Giver. So if you have not read it, I encourage you to do so. I've read it several times, and it's just really a great book. So each week we do bring on a different guest, and we try to highlight their business and focus on how we can help them grow. This week is a little different because we're going to be talking about my primary business, which here is Precise Fleet Tracking Solutions. I'm a full-service GPS tracking company, and I work with small business owners around the area, throughout the country, helping their businesses grow. So we're going to talk about that. And what I want you to do is I also want to make sure we focus on the fact that this is not a sales presentation. I'm not here to say you got to buy, you got to buy, you got to buy. I really want to provide value and knowledge and share facts with you about our tools and how they help businesses. And if you happen to be a business owner and you happen to have commercial vehicles and you don't use, well, whether you use GPS tracking or not, if you own vehicles and you are listening to our show, I would love to have a conversation with you to understand your perspective. If you use GPS tracking, why do you use it? How is it working for you? If you don't use GPS tracking, why not? And have you considered using GPS tracking? Now, through that conversation, it'd be awesome if we can figure out a way that we could help you with your GPS tracking. But I would just want to start the conversation by understanding why you do or do not use GPS tracking. So that's my ask to all of you, is if you happen to have commercial vehicles, or you have maybe in your own family, you have a fleet of vehicles, maybe you have a few young drivers, GPS tracking is really valuable in those situations as well. So I encourage you to reach out to us. And I really I really want to be authentic with all of you and just provide you the facts, the details. And, as I've mentioned in many episodes, in the book, The Go-Giver, there are 5 laws of stratospheric success. The one I want to focus on today is the law of authenticity. And it's defined by the most valuable gift you have to give is yourself. And so, what I want to do for you today is I want to give knowledge that I have about GPS tracking to each of you. And if it provides value, awesome. If it doesn't, well, maybe you can share this podcast with somebody that would get some value out of it. It doesn't resonate with everybody, and I understand that. So I'm going to keep this episode fairly short, and uh, but I want it to be very, very valuable to those that need it. So hopefully that's all of you. And if it's not you personally, you can share this information with somebody that either has a fleet of commercial vehicles or a small business, or a family that has lots of cars in their household, and either youthful drivers or elderly drivers that may be on the tail end of their driving experiences. But we want to be really authentic with all of you and just provide you the facts. So let's start by just touching on GPS tracking as a starting point. GPS tracking has been around for about 26, 27 years here in the consumer space. The government has been using GPS tracking since the late 1970s. But it's been the last 26 or so years. And one of the first companies that got into the space was a company that created a product called LoJack. Now, that brand is still around today. It's owned by a different company now, but a company by the name of AirIQ actually invented that product called LoJack. It originally was sold to new car dealers, and it was a theft protection device. Now, that company, AirIQ, that invented LoJack, well, that's the company I represent. They're based in Canada, publicly traded company, and they do an awesome job. They've been enhancing that product ever since they first introduced it 26 or 27 years ago. So they've been doing a great job, and I'm really proud to be a partner with them because they've helped me tremendously grow my business because they have really solid products. And we're going to talk more about those a little later on. But let's talk in more general terms about GPS tracking. So there are a variety of ways you can track a vehicle. The most common way people think about is the unit that might plug into your OBD port, which OBD stands for onboard diagnostic port. Every passenger vehicle made in 1996 and later, which are most of the vehicles on the road today, have this OBD port. It's a little connector that's under the steering column. It's what your mechanic plugs their computer into when they diagnose a check engine light, for example. Or when the state does their emissions testing, they plug a device, their computer into your OBD port, your onboard diagnostic port. We have this GPS tracker that plugs in there. And we sell those in some cases and provide those, or I should say, rent those to our clients in some cases. But we don't do it a lot because, frankly, they're easy to plug in. They're also easy to fall out. And sometimes even, when you get in and out of the vehicle, you could bump that unit. I notice in my vehicle, I have a demo unit that I use, and the car wash guys oftentimes will bump it out with their feet as they get in and out of my vehicle. But that is an option, and it's one of the units that's most commonly thought of when people think of GPS tracking. The unit we install a lot, however, for standard GPS tracking is a small wired unit that gets installed under the dashboard. It's hidden under the dashboard in the wiring harness. It's wired into the vehicle, and those 3 wires capture a lot of information about the vehicle and about the location of the vehicle and the speed of the vehicle, etc. That, along with the other technology within the GPS tracker. So generally speaking, that's a very common installation that we do in a lot of vehicles, a lot of trucks and passenger cars. We also have units that are hardwired like that are water resistant, that'll go into assets that may be exposed to elements. So things like large lawnmowers, those big John Deere lawnmowers, Kubotas, John Deere Gators, Bobcats, trenchers. These are units that have battery power built in. They have a key. You can start the asset, the piece of equipment. You can start it up with a key. So it has onboard battery power, but they're exposed to the elements. They get snowed on, they get rained on, they get power washed. They're out in the elements most of the time. So we have units that are sealed and that have a battery backup in them, but more importantly, they're sealed from the elements, IP66 rated seal, so they wouldn't get damaged from any rain, snow, or dust, etc. So we do that quite a bit on these assets that that companies want to track and keep an eye on. The other solution is a battery tracker for what we refer to as non-powered assets. So items like trailers, for example, trailers towing behind a truck. Sometimes, they actually get stolen. I should say sometimes, frequently they get stolen. So we put a battery tracker on that. So it only reports its location when it's moving. It may report it twice a day when it's stationary, but that's it. And then when the tractor is moving and the trailer is moving, the tracker is reporting its location. Could be every 3 minutes, every 5 minutes, every 20 minutes, etc. Those have a battery in it. Some units are sealed batteries. Sometimes we have trackers with AA batteries that are installed in the units and provide you knowledge of where these non-powered assets are. We have also installed these battery trackers on less common things. Let's refer to them as less common items, but items that have value and that frankly are stolen or misplaced. I will tell you that sometimes they're not stolen, but they can't be located because they've been dropped somewhere and people forgot where they're dropped. These things include porta potties. Those things are dropped off at different festivals and parks, etc. And the owner of those porta potties, they need to know where they're at to be able to collect them. Dumpsters, roll-off dumpsters. We put them on dumpsters oftentimes, so you know where your assets are throughout the city and the county. We've heard about them being installed on beehives. So beehives have a lot of value. The bees themselves are expensive, and the honey that they produce are expensive. And these units are typically put in the back of a field, away from population, of course, because there's bees flying in and out to deposit their honey. And they have been known to be stolen on occasion. And I've heard that those units can run up to about $15,000 a piece, the beehives. So if they have value, if something has value, sadly in our situation that we're in right now, people feel entitled to take what they don't own, and they feel they're entitled to it. So if you own these assets and you want to protect them and know where they're at, it's important to put a tracking unit on those so you can find them if they do go missing. We've also had companies or individuals that may own a tractor or a classic car, maybe sitting in a barn somewhere or in a garage, and maybe you don't drive it all the time or go to it all the time. Maybe you go to that barn there every few weeks. And what happens if somebody breaks in and steals that asset? You want to know where it's at. So it's there are a lot of scenarios where people have equipment or assets and they want to protect them even if they can't see it all the time. So you have electronic eyes on them instead of physical eyes on them. And then the final piece that we're going to actually dive in today is the dash cams themselves. So dash cams have GPS tracking technology, but they also add the element of video, and video footage is really, really important. I'm going to reference a few studies that have been concluded on the value of dash cams, and a lot of business owners are adding. We're adding dash cams regularly to vehicles because we're in a video world right now, and it's been really, really important to understand what really happened when an accident occurs, and sadly they do happen frequently. So I'm going to touch on the dash cams here in a second, but I just wanted to kind of conclude this segment by just telling you that Precise Fleet Tracking Solutions is a premier provider of GPS tracking devices, and we have a wide range of devices. We even have devices for used car dealers and finance companies that may finance vehicles, maybe assets, maybe heavy equipment. They may finance them and they want to know, in case they're not paid for, how to recover those assets. So we have a wide range of solutions that we'd love to talk to you about whenever it meets your needs. The best way to find out more about Precise Fleet Tracking Solutions is go to our website, which is precisefleettracking.com. It's fleettracking.com, or call us at 847-865-6008, 847-865-6008 for more information, and have an initial conversation. No pressure, no obligation, just a conversation. We love to educate people and inform them of what we have to offer. And then we also want to learn about your business and the challenges that you're having and how we might be able to provide some solution maybe today, maybe it's down the road, because there's new stuff coming on the market all the time. So we're happy to chat with you and learn more about your needs and whether or not we can provide a solution today, or if the solution we can provide is down the road. So let's get into some of these statistics on dash cams. It's an area that has been studied quite a bit, and there's been a couple studies, and I'm going to be mixing information from the different studies together in our conversation today. But one company was studying crashes that occurred and memory recall, and they found that when somebody's involved in an accident, the 68% of the time, the driver cannot recall all the pertinent information that they would need about the accident that just occurred. And in fact, 44% of these drivers couldn't even identify which car or vehicle was at fault in the accident. And 1% of the drivers, 1% of the drivers that were involved in an accident could actually accurately identify all the pertinent information. So 99% of the time, they couldn't recall everything. 68% of the time, the key information was missing. So there's various levels of recollection. So again, they said 44% of the time, these drivers failed to identify the car responsible for the accident. And 33% of the drivers acknowledged being distracted, which was the reason they couldn't recall, because they weren't paying full attention. And this is obviously a big issue, and states are doing a lot to try to curb that, requiring hands-free driving, so you're not holding your cell phone to your head when you're driving. But even if you're on a cell phone hands-free, if your mind is on your phone call and not on the road, you're not going to be paying full attention. And we're all all guilty of that, myself included. And I do try to limit my phone calls as much as possible, but it's almost impossible now in our current state, unless you simply turn your phone off when you're driving, or simply put your phone on do not disturb. I mean, there are ways to do it, but we all have so much going on in our lives that every minute is precious. But we have to be careful not to let those distractions raise our risk profile and put us in harm's way. The study went on to say that on average, men were able to recall 34% of the crucial accident information, where women were able to recall about 30% of that information. And only 3% were able to recall the full license plate of the car that was involved in the accident. And let's see, what else did they say here? 56% of the drivers surveyed could not identify the car and driver responsible, and 44% blamed the wrong driver. So a lot of misinformation shared back and forth, and a lot of missing information. So it's critical. And 67% of the drivers couldn't even identify the color of the car that was driving in front of them. And this was part of this test was a test just on showing individuals a video of a crash. And they showed it to them once, and they stopped the video and they asked them questions. And the viewers could not answer all the questions, including 67% of the time couldn't even tell them the color, tell the test giver the color of the car in front of them. And another stat I found in a different survey said that more than 17% of the fatal crashes between 2017 and 2021 involved a drowsy driver. And they did say that men are more frequently driving drowsy than women, but drowsy driving is a problem across the board. And and then we're going to touch on that as we get into our solutions a little bit in a moment here. Um, but drowsy driving can contribute to not only the fatal accidents, but also can contribute to the lack of recollection of the pertinent details when an accident did occur. Question is, well, what do we do to fix this? Well, the short answer is dash cams. Dash cams come to the rescue in this case because you have an inanimate object videoing the surroundings and what's going on in front of the vehicle, and the solution that Precise Fleet Tracking offers with our dash cams, we offer a dual facing dash cam, which is really important because it shows what's going on in front of the vehicle and it shows what's going on in the cab of the vehicle at the same time, simultaneously. So you can tell if the driver is distracted in any way, drowsy, texting and driving, etc. And we're gonna touch on that here in a minute. But the reality is that the use of dash cams are growing in popularity because of the value that the video footage is providing to the business owners. And most of the time, these are in commercial vehicles. There are some passenger vehicles that have dash cams, but commercial vehicles are typically the vehicles that we're installing a lot of dash cams. But another company had completed a poll back in 2019, and they said that 50% of their fleets that installed dash cams were able to exonerate a driver wrongly accused of an accident within the first year of installing these dash cams. So think about a wrongly accused driver. So when you have when an accident occurs, if the situation is murky, what really happened, there's no video footage, people are left to their own devices to figure out, well, what really caused the accident? Who's really at fault? Well, oftentimes, when a commercial vehicle is involved in the accident, they will be blamed for the accident. Sometimes there's some insurance fraud scams going on where people will look and think that a corporation is going to have deep insurance pockets and they might be able to get a payday. But regardless of why it happens, the fact of the matter is that it happens regularly where commercial drivers are often blamed for causing the accident. Now, frequently when it's a passenger vehicle and a commercial driver, even though the commercial driver is often blamed, in a study that University of Michigan did a few years back, stated that nearly 80% of the time, the passenger vehicle was responsible for the accident, even though the commercial vehicle was blamed. And part of that comes to the point that not a lot of passenger drivers realize the truck. If a truck is driving down the road, they don't have the same capabilities, lane changing abilities, braking abilities, acceleration abilities that a passenger vehicle has. If your truck is a 10,000, 20,000 pound payload on top of the truck, and it's barreling down the highway, it can't stop on a dime like maybe a vehicle could. So sometimes we find that, or oftentimes they found that a passenger vehicle will assume that a truck could stop or could change lanes if they needed to quicker than they actually can. So sometimes that causes the accident, and but certainly the passenger vehicle is at fault for incorrectly estimating the reaction time and the ability for this commercial vehicle to stop or change lanes. So and this study that this company did in 2019, where they said 50% of the fleets were able to exonerate a driver within the first year. They also went on to say that it saved these companies between $5,000 and $25,000, $5,000 to $25,000 per incident, and that comes to insurance costs, deductibles, etc. So for a commercial vehicle to have dash cams in all their vehicles, the return on that investment is a very, very short period of time. One accident can justify the investment in dash cams for the entire fleet for many years. It's really, really remarkable payback because the dash cam footage are so valuable. And one other point comes down to when there's a fatal accident and a truck is involved in a fatal accident, which is tragic. These often result in nuclear verdicts at the expense of these commercial companies. So for commercial commercial business owners of commercial vehicles, I should say, to avoid a nuclear verdict should an accident happen, and you know, heaven forbid it's a fatal accident, but if it happens, once it happens, it's too late to unring the bell. But to avoid those nuclear verdicts, you really need to have that dash cam footage to be able to validate what really happened. Now, sometimes your driver is at fault, and we get that, and there's that risk for sure. But we're going to also touch on that a little bit further here. But the point is that you know, insurance costs keep going up, and these fatal accidents continue to happen, and our tools help businesses kind of get past it and protect themselves. So I encourage you to consider dash cams whenever you can. So let's touch on that a little bit, and our solution, our dash cam solution, because it is something that is really a strong product that's been very valuable. As I mentioned before, our dash cam solution has a forward-facing camera that looks through the windshield, as well as a camera that faces back to the cab of the vehicle, capturing what's going on inside the vehicle. Now, there are actually two camera lenses facing into the vehicle. One is capturing the footage of what's going on, and one is an artificial intelligence lens that's looking for distracted driving. Distracted driving is huge, big problem across the board. And anything we could do to help reduce distracted driving is a benefit to everybody on the road, whether it be pedestrians or other vehicles and inanimate objects, etc. If you can reduce and save an accident or two here and there because you're not distracted, that's a bonus for everybody. But let's talk about distracted driving. So our artificial intelligence lens will look back at the driver and look for the driver's eyes on the road. They want to make sure that they can see the pupils of the eyes looking forward. And the camera is on the windshield, right under, anchored to the windshield, right underneath the rear view mirror, and it's looking at the driver. So if the driver is looking down, whether they're changing their radio station, they're texting and driving, they're digging around in their bag of French fries, having lunch, they're doing something other than looking through the windshield. So when the dash cam through the GPS sensors knows that the vehicle is moving because of the voltage of the battery of the vehicle, they know the vehicle is on. Because the GPS coordinates are changing, they know the vehicle is moving. And if it does not see the driver's eyes looking forward, it believes the driver is distracted in some way, shape, or form. The unit, GPS tracking unit, will send out an audible tone to the driver. It's 3 beeps. It's not obtrusive, but just a little subtle reminder, hey, get your eyes on the road. Beep, beep, beep is all it is. And it'll encourage the driver to get their eyes back on the road. If they're looking out the driver window, or you know, if they are falling asleep, it will notify the driver that they need to pay attention. So it's part of it's a learning process. Now, when the dash cam does notify the driver with those 3 beeps, it also makes a note in the database so that the management of the fleet of vehicles and the dash cams also knows that there was a distracted driving event. So it gives the management, whether it be an operations manager, fleet manager, owner of the business, it gives them the data to then coach their driver to be better, to be more alert and more attentive on the road. And every time you can encourage your driver to be more attentive, the fewer accidents you're going to have. The fewer accidents, there's fewer risks of injury. Your truck is off the road for less time, less loss of productivity, fewer repairs, fewer insurance deductibles. You can understand how it really contributes to the bottom line of the business if you can improve the safety of your drivers. And there was an interesting statistic here, if I can find it real quickly. It said that So some, and oftentimes the drivers will bristle at the thought of having a dash cam in their vehicle. But these businesses found that, there was a risk early on that there may be some employees want to leave the business, leave the company if they put dash cams in their vehicle. Well, companies have found that 93% of the companies that installed dash cams had no employee retention issues. So while there might be some initial bristling over the installation of these dash cams, the reality is employees they get used to it. They accept the fact that, okay, this really is for my safety. So if you're a business owner and you're hesitant to put dash cams in your vehicles, I encourage you to have a conversation with us, because we can share a number of companies with you that have had similar hesitancies and yet went forward and found that it actually was very valuable. And the drivers actually eventually come around to like the dash cams, because it proves that they're doing the right thing. Most of the drivers get offended when they believe that the owner is skeptical that they're doing the right thing, and they're saying, "Well, gee, I'm doing all the right thing, boss. You don't need to track me." But then they come to find out that the dash cams help prove that they're doing the right thing, that they are being good stewards of the business and appropriate employees, and so it validates that concern, and maybe it highlights somebody else that is not doing all the right things. But it has not impacted employee retention as was once suspected. So that's an important aspect to keep in mind. The other thing that our dash cams will do is validate adherence to your driving policy. Most businesses that have vehicles on the road and have employees in their vehicles have an employee handbook. Well, I should say most businesses have an employee handbook, period. But if you have vehicles, you have a section in that handbook that talks about driving a company vehicle. What's required? What's expected? So most businesses will have a clause that says, we expect you to wear your seatbelt when you drive our company vehicle. It's common sense, but it's spelled out in the handbook in most cases. And most businesses will say, no texting while driving. Be safe, keep your eyes on the road, be safe, no texting and driving. Some will not allow you to have passengers in the vehicle. It just depends on the business. But the first two are most common. Must wear your seatbelt and no texting while driving. Well, I ask this question kind of rhetorically, but the reality is, if you don't have dash cams in your vehicle and you have this policy in your handbook, how do you measure compliance? How do you know your drivers are really wearing their seatbelts? How do you know that they're not texting and driving? So insurance companies love the dash cams. So you have your vehicle insurance with a commercial company. There are some insurance companies that will offer discounts, but more often than not, what we're finding right now is that companies will include information when they're underwriting a policy, including information that company now has dash cams and they have artificial intelligence. They're watching for seatbelt wearing. They're watching for no texting and driving. And you can tell through our tracking whether or not a seatbelt is being worn. You can tell if somebody's texting and driving because you see it in the video. And our artificial intelligence lens will also notify the driver and the system that texting and driving was occurring. So then the business can go back to the insurance company and report back on how well their drivers are doing with those really important factors. So it helps reduce the premium increases, and obviously if it reduces your accidents, it reduces the claims and the deductibles paid, et cetera. That it's critical to keep in mind. Value of our tracking is in how it reduces your expenses. And obviously, we did mention that you have, I think it's a 205-degree purview through the windshield of the vehicle to see what's going on in front of the vehicle. So if there is an accident, you can see was that a car cut him off, or was there something else going on in front of the vehicle before an accident happened. So it's important to have that view and have that knowledge. So we certainly have that capabilities. Our dash cams have an SD card inside, which captures all the video footage captured while the vehicle is running. And then all the incidents are uploaded through the cellular SIM card to the cloud and to our server. So we see all the incidents on our server. And so you have access to that as well. So I work with our clients to gain access to that footage should we need to happen. And frankly, I get called into action pretty regularly. There's been a lot of incidents with our drivers. Recent scenario at a truck rollover, the semi truck rolled over on an embankment in Florida. Very dramatic crash, and fortunately, the driver was safe, was not injured. But our footage caught all that happened, and the owner was curious what happened, and I helped them through the process of acquiring the footage so he can see exactly what happened in his vehicle. Now, I want to touch real briefly on what makes precise fleet tracking different. Obviously, there are a lot of companies you can get GPS tracking from. Some really big companies, publicly traded companies. Precise Fleet Tracking Solutions is a small company, and I'm proud of that. I own Precise Fleet Tracking Solutions. I started Precise Fleet Tracking Solutions. And I started Precise Fleet Tracking Solutions with a really focused approach. To real briefly, how we got this started and why, and how we're different, and how that is an advantage to you as our potential clients. Any business that needs dash cams or standard tracking should consider Precise Fleet Tracking Solutions for several key reasons. First of all, when we started Precise Fleet Tracking Solutions, I wanted to build not the biggest company, but I wanted to build the best company providing GPS tracking. I've always in my career been focused on customer service. As a consumer, I like appropriate customer service. I don't like getting ignored. I don't like getting pushed off. I don't like being pushed to a robot. I don't like being pushed to an overseas call center. So I took all those into consideration as I built this foundation and built the business plan. But I looked at our largest competitors and understood how do they run their business? How do they do their business? They're huge companies. They're very profitable companies. They're very successful companies. But I looked at how they did things and I said to myself, okay, let's do it differently. Let's do it better. How? And looked at each component. How can we do it better? So one of the big components is we do not require long-term contracts. Okay, the biggest companies do. They require a 3-year, some a 5-year contract. In fact, one of our competitors will ask, and not require, but ask a customer to not only sign a 5-year contract, but pay for 5 years of services up front. That's 60 months of monthly recurring fees that they pay up front with one check. That's a huge ask. And once you do that, you lose all leverage. If the service is terrible, you can pull out, you certainly leave them, but you don't get your money back. You already paid for the service. So it's really difficult. And frankly, it's difficult for a lot of companies, a lot of small businesses to write a check that large for all these services for the next 5 years. But with Precise Fleet Tracking Solutions, we don't require long-term contracts. We ask for a 12-month commitment. And that's give us 12 months to get everything installed, operating, giving you time to learn the reports, get comfortable with the data we're providing. And frankly, to be really transparent, I make a 12-month commitment to my provider. So I ask for a 12-month commitment from you. Now, if something happens in your business and you can't move forward, maybe it's been 10 months. You're like, gee, I can't move. I can't complete the first 12 months that I originally committed to. Well, that's okay. I understand. Things change. We don't have a crystal ball. We don't know how things are going to go. All I ask is that you give me back the units, and we work out a financial settlement on the difference. Usually it's a month or two. We just kind of settle it off, and I don't penalize anybody. I don't hold your feet to the fire. I'm not going to make it really difficult for you. We're gonna work it out. Sometimes we just simply forgive the remaining months of the service that was committed to. It just depends on the situation. It really does depend on the situation. And I want to be empathetic and appreciate the situations that our customers are in. And that's, again, one of the reasons I like small businesses, because as a small business owner, I know how it is to grow a business. And it's not as easy as it looks on paper, and certainly how it looks in the media. So we don't require those long-term contracts, but we bill our services month to month. We typically do it on a credit card. We have some clients that pay us via check. I have a client that pays us via ACH transfer. However it works, we bill our services once a month. But the important thing with that aspect is we put the control in your hands as the customer. I want you to be a loyal customer, but I want you to be a loyal customer for many, many years, not because you have to be a contract, but because you want to, because we're providing awesome service. And that's really important. You have control as the client. Just like when I'm a consumer and I'm buying something, I want control. I give up control. I don't want to hog tie somebody into a long-term commitment, even if they don't want, if they don't want to be there. With us not requiring long-term contracts, we also don't have auto renewal clauses. Some of our biggest competitors will put auto renewal clauses in their contract, where they may start with a 3-year contract. Then at some point, there's an automatic renewal. Well, if you're not reading the contract closely to understand when is that auto renewal period, or when can I opt out of the auto renewal period, they give you typically a 30-day window to opt out, but it's usually it's like 60 or 90 days before the contract is to expire. But if you miss it by a day, I literally had clients that missed it by 1 or 2 days. Too bad, so sorry. You're in for another year. So those auto renewal clauses are very, very difficult. And with a number of these clients, these vendors, each time you purchase new vehicles and you add a new batch of tracking units, you'll start a new contract, either 3 years or 5 years. And so you'll have staggered expirations and therefore staggered auto renewal periods. And it'll be very difficult to keep track of when certain vehicles are expiring from contract and when they aren't. So it becomes very, very complicated. The larger you get, the more vehicles you add, and the more frequently you add vehicles to your fleet. So these carriers know this, and they get a lot more revenue from their clients because they do this approach. And I understand from a numbers and cents, from an accounting standpoint, it makes sense to do it that way. Even though it makes sense financially, I don't think it's the right way to do it. So we built Precise Fleet Tracking differently. And I will take the risk that we have some cancellations. We don't have very many. We have some very, very loyal basic customers because we do an awesome job. We really do. And I hate to harp on that, but it's really true. Another key component is we are local in the Chicagoland area. We have clients around the country. I did mention one client in Florida. I do spend time in Florida as well, and I do have a handful of clients down there that I serve. And when I am in Florida, I do visit my clients down there, and I will go wherever I need to go to support a client. But most of our clients are here in the Chicagoland area, whether it be Chicago, Wisconsin, Indiana, Michigan, within driving distance pretty easily. For our local clients, we deliver, install, support, train, and service our clients locally. So I like to be face-to-face with my clients. I don't just put the trackers in a box and ship them to them. Sometimes for out-of-state clients, we will ship tracking units, especially if they're add-on units and we already have an established relationship. We will grow with a client and I will ship units. So I don't want to mislead anybody. But the reality is, especially for a new client, we do a lot with trying to build a strong relationship face-to-face. So when we're doing an initial installation, I'm typically on site with the installer to get to know the client, and get to know the vehicles, get to know the facility, the fleet manager, the business owner. And we build this rapport. And so when an issue comes up or a question comes up, I have a view and I know what's happening in that environment. So we find that that's really beneficial, and the businesses really seem to enjoy that. And because we're local, we never hide behind an overseas call center. I briefly touched on that earlier. I don't like overseas call centers. And nothing, I mean, people are nice people, but it's just not the same. If somebody needs support on their tracking unit, they call into our office. Oftentimes they call me directly on my cell phone. I take calls on the weekends. I take calls at night. Recently, a few weeks ago, I got a call at 7:30 on a Friday evening, and the business owner was shocked. He was expecting to get my voicemail, and he called me. I answered the phone, and I said, "Well, I'm here. I'm not busy, so let's chat." And we had a nice conversation at 7:30 at night on a Friday night. because he had a question, he had a concern, and he wanted it addressed. So I was able to provide that level of service, and I do that for all of my clients. I never want to let anybody go to voicemail if I don't have to. Sometimes it's unavoidable, but if I can, I will take those calls and will support our clients. I will not route them to an overseas call center. Just won't do it. Another key component here is that we own the GPS tracking equipment. All right, we own it. We rent it to you as the customer. So you don't have to make a capital investment in equipment. You simply rent it from us on a monthly basis. The manufacturer my provider provides me a 12-month warranty. I extend that warranty to lifetime warranty for my clients. As long as you're paying the monthly service, that unit is warranted. If it fails, we swap it out. Down the road, 4 or 5 years from now, the 4G cellular network is going to go away and it'll be 5G. We'll just swap units out. Well, you won't have to buy new units. You rent from me, and if the network technology, the cellular technology changes, that's not your fault. You shouldn't have to buy new equipment. We simply swap the equipment out, no cost. We absorb even the installation costs. You install it once in a vehicle. Now, when we uninstall from a vehicle, there'll be a charge. When we install a unit in another vehicle, there'll be a charge. But if we have to come out there and swap a unit out because it failed, we do it at our expense. So you pay for that up front, and you rent our equipment, and you just pay the monthly fee. It's really simple. And so I touched on the lifetime warranty, but also we are very competitively priced. Now, the bigger providers that offer long-term contracts, they may offer shorter term contracts. 3 years is generally the shortest, but they'll usually offer a discount if you do a longer term. We offer very competitive pricing, where our month-to-month pricing usually rivals and is, most cases, less expensive than the bigger providers' 5-year rate. So we know we're very competitively priced. We know we are a competitive provider that puts the control in the hands of our clients, and we build loyalty each and every month because of the service we provide. So, number of reasons why we are different, and how we built precise fleet tracking solutions different from other providers. And so we put that foundation together with really awesome equipment from AirIQ and SVR Tracking, 2 companies that you've heard about here on I Got a Guy podcast in the past, but 2 different providers that we represent today. And we're looking to add another provider here in the near term. But all of the providers are fully vetted, and we're confident are awesome companies, and we stand behind their products, and we warrant them for life. And we just really are proud of the service that we provide. So I'm hoping, I'm going to wrap this show up here quickly, and I apologize if it went longer than I even anticipated. But the reality is, I'm very passionate about what we have to offer, and I encourage you that to share this podcast with your friends, your circle of influence, other business owners. If you know a landscaping company, a plumbing company, a roofing company, electrical contractor, a towing operator, anybody that has vehicles, a used car dealership, a new car dealership. If you know somebody that owns a business and they have commercial vehicles, they have a logo on the side of the vehicle, they should have tracking inside the vehicle. Well, I would love an introduction. Encourage them to reach out to Precise Fleet Tracking, just to have a conversation. They don't have to make a commitment. They may already be committed with another provider. That's okay. I have no issue with that. I just want to have a conversation, build a relationship, and let them know that we are very authentic in our delivery, and we're really passionate about what we do, and we can help in some way, shape, or form, either now or down the road. We'd love to help. So I encourage you to share this podcast. If you want to find out more about our past episodes, I did not mention this earlier, but you can go to igotaguypodcast.com for all of our past episodes. You can see a synopsis of our shows, the different guests that we've had, and there's a pop-up on the website as well, which if you want to reach out to us and be a guest on an upcoming episode, I encourage you to fill out the slip, send it over. I get an email, and we'll have a conversation, see if we can get you into the schedule to be a guest. The best part about being a guest on I Got a Guy podcast is there's no cost. I do this as a gift to you, my guest. I want to help small businesses grow, whether it's a side hustle or it's a small business. it's something unique you want to share. I had somebody on that does thrifting at thrift shops and garage sales, and they sell product online. I have another previous guest that um, buys video games at flea markets and thrift stores and garage sales and cleans them up and resells them. Little side hustle. Interesting. I thought it was an interesting topic. We had him on as a guest. So if you have an interest and you want to have a platform to share it, please reach out to Precise Fleet Tracking. Reach out to me at iGotAGuyPodcast.com. iGotAGuyPodcast.com, and send me a note. And iGotAGuyPodcast.com. All these podcast episodes are embedded in my Precise Fleet Tracking website. So you can go to precisefleettracking.com and click on the link for podcast episodes, the drop down, or go to iGotAGuyPodcast.com directly and get right to that page. But I really encourage you to reach out to us, stay in touch, subscribe to this channel, set the notifications, and share this on your social media feeds. So how we grow, and we've been growing every week, and really enjoying the process and loving this venue and this format. So hope you enjoyed as well. I really appreciate your attention. Thank you for being part of this, and I hope you all make it a great week. So we'll talk to you soon. Take care. Thank you for listening to I Got a Guy Podcast. For past podcasts and more information, go to iGotAGuyPodcast.com. That's iGotAGuyPodcast.com. Please share this podcast on your social media feeds and tune in again next week to I Got a Guy Podcast.